Jai Gurudev, welcome everybody. Can you hear me now? Yes? Okay, good. Welcome to the 7th day of Bhagavad Gita. तो आज सप्ताह पूरा हो रहा है जब से हमने शुरू किया गुरुदेव के आदेश पर ये भगवत गीता का पारायण करना. So grateful, so delighted that everybody could join. And we will start today. Today we'll be doing chapter 12, 13 and 14. Okay, so let's start with prayer. Everything goes on smoothly. Yesterday we had a little bit of internet issues. जब हम ये करते हैं ना, तो आप अभी तो 1 घंटा हम साथ में होते हैं, 40-45 minutes on Zoom. जो लोग हिंदी सुनते हैं तो 1 घंटा. There is a lot that goes behind the scenes. आपका एक्सपीरियंस स्मूथ रहे इसके लिए दिन में जयेश, मैं, Praveen is here today. Praveen is the one without laptop. He is chanting the whole thing in Hindi and recording for us. And Oishi and everybody is very busy. They have lot of things they are doing, and with that they take out time, they record in the day. दिन में वो record करते हैं सब मिलकर, फिर मैं सब join करवाती हूँ. Then we upload it privately and then we stream it for you. Yeah, so that if either one of us, जैसे कल जयेश डिस्कनेक्ट हो गया था, तो हम में से कोई भी अगर डिस्कनेक्ट हो जाए तो आपका एक्सपीरियंस खराब ना हो. Good, no? You all are so sincere, so enthusiastic कि हमें भी लगता है कि आपके लिए एकदम आगे बढ़कर कुछ करना चाहिए, है ना? So grateful for this participation. So today let's begin. Let's join our hands. हाथ जोड़ लेते हैं. Let's begin with the prayer. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहे तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ॐ शांति शांति शांति. Slowly you may open your eyes. Let's begin. Today I'll share a story at the end of the session. Okay.
अथ द्वादशोऽध्यायः भक्तियोगः. अर्जुन उवाच एवं सततयुक्ता ये भक्तास्त्वां पर्युपासते ये चाप्यक्षरमव्यक्तं तेषां के योगवित्तमाः. श्रीभगवानुवाच मय्यावेश्य मनो ये मां नित्ययुक्ता उपासते श्रद्धया परयोपेताः ते मे युक्ततमा मताः. ये त्वक्षरमनिर्देश्यम् अव्यक्तं पर्युपासते सर्वत्र गमच्चिन्त्यं च कूटस्थमचलं ध्रुवम्. संनियम्येन्द्रियग्रामं सर्वत्र समबुद्धयः ते प्राप्नुवन्ति मामेव सर्वभूतहिते रताः. क्लेशोऽधिकतरस्तेषाम् अव्यक्तासक्तचेतसाम् अव्यक्ता हि गतिर्दुःखम् देहवद्भिरवाप्यते. ये तु सर्वाणि कर्माणि मयि सन्न्यस्य मत्पराः अनन्येनैव योगेन मां ध्यायन्त उपासते तेषामहं समुद्धर्ता मृत्युसंसारसागरात् भवामि न चिरात् पार्थ मय्यावेशितचेतसाम्. मय्येव मन आदत्स्व मयि बुद्धिं निवेशय निवसिष्यसि मय्येव अत ऊर्ध्वं न संशयः अथ चित्तं समाधातुं न शक्नोषि मयि स्थिरम् अभ्यासयोगेन ततो मामिच्छाप्तुं धनञ्जय अभ्यास्येऽप्यसमर्थोऽसि मत्कर्म परमो भव मदर्थमपि कर्माणि कुर्वन् सिद्धिमवाप्स्यसि अथैतदप्यशक्तोऽसि कर्तुं मद्योगमाश्रितः सर्वकर्मफलत्यागं ततः कुरु यतात्मवान् श्रेयो हि ज्ञानमभ्यासात् ज्ञानाध्यानं विशिष्यते ध्यानात् कर्मफलत्यागः त्यागाच्छान्तिरनन्तरम् अद्वेष्टा सर्वभूतानां मैत्रः करुण एव च निर्ममो निरहङ्कारः समदुःखसुखक्षमी सन्तुष्ट सततं योगी यतात्मा दृढनिश्चयः मय्यर्पितमनो बुद्धिः यो मद्भक्तः मे प्रियः यस्मान्नो द्विजते लोको लोकान्नो द्विजते च यः हर्षामर्षभयोद्वेगैः मुक्तो यः स च मे प्रियः अनपेक्षसुचिर्दक्ष उदासीनो गतव्यथः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी यो मद्भक्तः स मे प्रियः यो न हृष्यति न द्वेष्टि न शोचति न काङ्क्षति शुभाशुभपरित्यागी भक्तिमान् यः स मे प्रियः समक्षत्रौ च मित्रे च तथा मानापमानयोः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु समः सङ्गविवर्जितः तुल्यनिन्दास्तुतिर्मौनी सन्तुष्टो येन केनचित् अनिकेतः स्थिरमतिः भक्तिमान् मे प्रियो नरः ये तु धर्म्यामृतमिदं यथोक्तं पर्युपासते श्रद्धधाना मत्परमाः भक्तास्तेतीव मे प्रियाः ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे भक्तियोगो नाम 12ोऽध्यायः।
Chapter 12, Translation. Arjun said, "The devotees exclusively and constantly devoted to you in the manner stated just earlier adore you as possessed of form and attributes, and those who adore as the supreme reality only the indestructible unmanifest Brahma, who is truth, knowledge and bliss solidified, of these two types of worshippers, who are the best knowers of yoga?" Sri Bhagavan said, "I consider them to be the best yogis who, endowed with supreme faith and ever united through meditation with me, worship me with their mind centered on me. Those, however, who fully controlling all their senses and even-minded towards all and devoted to the welfare of all beings, constantly adore as their very self the unthinkable, omnipresent, indestructible, indefinable, eternal, immovable, unmanifest and changeless Brahma, they too come to me. Of course, the strain is greater for those who have their mind attached to the unmanifest, as attunement with the unmanifest is attained with difficulty by the body-conscious people. On the other hand, those depending exclusively on me and surrendering all actions to me, worship me, God with attributes, constantly meditating on me with single-minded devotion, them, Arjun, I speedily deliver from the ocean of birth and death, their mind being fixed on me. Therefore, fix your mind on me and establish your intellect in me alone. Thereafter, you will abide solely in me. There is no doubt about it. If you cannot steadily fix the mind on me, Arjun, then seek to attain me through the yoga of practice. If you are unequal even to the pursuit of such practice, Be intent to work for me. You shall attain perfection in the shape of my realization, even by performing actions for my sake. If taking recourse to the yoke of my realization, you are unable even to do this, then subduing your mind and intellect, etc., relinquish the fruit of all actions. Knowledge is better than practice without discernment. Meditation on God is superior to knowledge, and renunciation of the fruit of actions is even superior to meditation. For peace immediately follows from renunciation. He who is free from malice towards all beings, friendly and compassionate, and free from the feelings of I and mine, balanced in joy and sorrow, forgiving by nature, ever contented and mentally united with me, nay, who has subdued his mind, senses, and body, has a firm resolve, and has surrendered his mind and reason to me, that devotee of mine is dear to me. He who is not a source of annoyance to his fellow creatures, and who in his turn does not feel vexed with his fellow creatures, and who is free from delight and envy, perturbation and fear, is dear to me. He who wants nothing, who is both internally and externally pure, is wise and impartial, and has risen above all distractions, and who renounces the sense of doership in all undertakings, such a devotee of mine is dear to me. He who neither rejoices nor hates, nor grieves nor desires, and who renounces both good and evil actions, and is full of devotion, is dear to me. He who deals equally with friend and foe, and is the same in honor and ignominy, who is alike in heat and cold, pleasure and pain, and other contrary experiences, and is free from attachment. He who takes praise and reproach alike, and is given to contemplation, and is contented with any means of subsistence available, entertaining no sense of ownership and attachment in respect of his dwelling place, and is full of devotion to me, that person is dear to me. Those devotees, however, who partake in a disinterested way of this nectar of pious wisdom set forth above, endowed with faith and solely devoted to me, they are extremely dear to me. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna, ends the 12th chapter entitled The Yoga of Devotion.
अथ त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगः अर्जुन उवाच प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव क्षेत्रं क्षेत्रज्ञमेव च एतद्वेदितुमिच्छामि ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं च केशव श्रीभगवानुवाच इदं शरीरं कौन्तेय क्षेत्रमित्यभिधीयते एतद्यो वेत्ति तं प्राहुः क्षेत्रज्ञ इति तद्विदः क्षेत्रज्ञं चापि मां विद्धि सर्वक्षेत्रेषु भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोर्ज्ञानं यत्तज्ज्ञानं मतं मम तत्क्षेत्रं यच्छ यादृक् च यद्विकारि यतश्च यत् स च यो यत्प्रभावश्च तत्समासेन मे शृणु ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतं छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः महाभूतान्यहङ्कारो बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्च चैन्द्रियगोचराः इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्घातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम् अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचम् स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधि दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु मयि चानन्ययोगेन भक्तिरव्यभिचारिणी विविक्तदेशसेवित्वम् अरतिर्जनसंसदि अध्यात्मज्ञाननित्यत्वम् तत्त्वज्ञानार्थदर्शनम् एतज्ज्ञानमिति प्रोक्तम् अज्ञानं यदतोऽन्यथा ज्ञेयं यत्तत् प्रवक्ष्यामि यज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते अनादिमत्परं ब्रह्म न सत्तन्नासदुच्यते सर्वतः पाणिपादं तत् सर्वतोक्षिशिरोमुखम् सर्वतः श्रुतिमल्लोके सर्वमावृत्य तिष्ठति सर्वेन्द्रियगुणाभासम् सर्वेन्द्रियविवर्जितम् असक्तं सर्वभृच्चैव निर्गुणं गुणभोक्तृ च बहिरन्तश्च भूतानाम् अचरं चरमेव च सूक्ष्मत्वात् तदविज्ञेयम् दूरस्थं चान्तिके च तत्.
The 13th translation. Sri Bhagavan said, "This body, Arjun, is termed as the field, Kshetra, and he who knows it is called the knower of the field, Kshetrajana, Kshetrajna, by the sages discerning the truth about both. Know myself to be the individual soul, the Kshetrajna, in all the Kshetras, Arjun, and it is the knowledge of the field and the knower that is of matter with its evolutes and the spirit which I consider as true knowledge. What that field is and what is its nature, what are its modifications, and from what causes what effects have arisen, and also who its knower is and what is his glory, hear all this from me in brief. The truth about the Kshetra and the Kshetrajna has been expounded by the seers in manifold ways. Again, it has been separately stated in different Vedic chants and also in the conclusive and reasoned text of the Brahma Sutras. The 5 elements, the ego, the intellect, the unmanifest primordial matter, the 10 organs of perception and action, the mind, and the 5 objects of sense, sound, touch, color, taste, and smell. Also desire, aversion, pleasure, pain, the physical body, consciousness, firmness. Thus is the Kshetra with its evolutes briefly stated. Absence of pride, freedom from hypocrisy, non-violence, forbearance, uprightness of speech and mind, etc. Devout service of the preceptor, internal and external purity, steadfastness of mind and control of body, mind, and the senses. Dispassion towards the objects of enjoyment of this world and the next, and also absence of egotism, pondering again and again on the pain and evils inherent in birth, death, old age, and disease. Absence of attachment and the sense of mindness in respect of son, wife, home, etc., and constant equipoise of mind, both in favorable and unfavorable circumstances. Unflinching devotion to me, to exclusive attachment, living in secluded and holy places, and finding no delight in the company of worldly people. Constancy in self-knowledge and seeing God as the object of true knowledge. All this is declared as knowledge, and what is contrary to this is called ignorance. I shall speak to you at length about that which ought to be known, and knowing which one attains supreme bliss. That supreme Brahma, who is the Lord of beginningless entities, and is said to be neither Sat nor Asat, being or non-being. It has hands and feet on all sides, eyes, head, and mouth in all directions, and ears all around, for it stands pervading all in the universe. Though perceiving all sense objects, it is really speaking devoid of all senses. Nay, though unattached, it is the sustainer of all nonetheless. And though attributeless, it is the enjoyer of gunas, the three modes of Prakriti. It exists without and within all beings and constitutes the animate and inanimate creation as well. And by reason of its subtlety, it is incomprehensible. It is close at hand and stands afar too.
अविभक्तं च भूतेषु विभक्तमिव च स्थितं भूतभर्तृ च तज्ज्ञेयं ग्रसिष्णुप्रभविष्णु च ज्योतिषामपि तज्ज्योतिः तमसः परमुच्यते ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं ज्ञानगम्यं हृदि सर्वस्य विष्ठितम् इति क्षेत्रं तथा ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं चोक्तं समासतः मद्भक्तये तद्विज्ञाय मद्भावायोपपद्यते प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव विध्यनादिवुभावपि विकारांश्च गुणांश्चैव विद्धि प्रकृतिसम्भवान् कार्यकारणकर्तृत्वे हेतुः प्रकृतिरुच्यते पुरुषः सुखदुःखानां भोक्तृत्वे हेतुरुच्यते पुरुषः प्रकृतिस्थो हि भुङ्क्ते प्रकृतिजान् गुणान् कारणं गुणसङ्गोऽस्य सदसद्यो निजन्मसु उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः य एवं वेत्ति पुरुषं प्रकृतिं च गुणैः सह सर्वथा वर्तमानोऽपि न स भूयोऽभिजायते ध्यानेनात्मनि पश्यन्ति केचिदात्मानमात्मना अन्ये साङ्ख्येन योगेन कर्मयोगेन चापरे अन्ये त्वेवमजानन्तः श्रुत्वान्येभ्य उपासते तेऽपि चातितरन्त्येव मृत्युं श्रुतिपरायणाः यावत् सञ्जायते किञ्चित् सत्त्वं स्थावरजङ्गमम् क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञसंयोगात् तद्विद्धि भरतर्षभ समं सर्वेषु भूतेषु तिष्ठन्तं परमेश्वरम् विनश्यत्स्व विनश्यन्तं यः पश्यति स पश्यति समं पश्यन् हि सर्वत्र समवस्थितमीश्वरम् न हि नस्त्यात्मनात्मानं ततो याति परां गतिम् प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति यदा भूतपृथग्भावम् एकस्थमनुपश्यति तत एव च विस्तारम् ब्रह्म सम्पद्यते तदा अनादित्वान्निर्गुणात्वात् परमात्मायमव्ययः शरीरस्थोऽपि कौन्तेय न करोति न लिप्यते यथा सर्वगतं सौक्ष्म्यात् आकाशं नोपलिप्यते सर्वत्रावस्थितो देहे तथात्मानोपलिप्यते यथा प्रकाशयत्येकः कृत्स्नं लोकमिमं रविः क्षेत्रं क्षेत्रे तथा कृत्स्नं प्रकाशयति भारत क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञयोरेवम् अन्तरं ज्ञानचक्षुषा भूतप्रकृतिमोक्षं च ये विदुर्यान्ति ते परम् ॐ तत्सत्। तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे क्षेत्रक्षेत्रज्ञविभागयोगो नाम त्रयोदशोऽध्यायः।
Though integral like space in its undivided aspect, it appears divided as it were in all animate and inanimate beings. And that Godhead, which is the only object worth knowing, is the sustainer of beings as Vishnu, the destroyer as Rudra, and the creator of all as Brahma. That supreme Brahma is said to be the light of all lights and entirely beyond Maya. That Godhead is knowledge itself, worth knowing and worth attaining through real wisdom, and is particularly abiding in the hearts of all. Thus, the truth of the kshetra and knowledge, as well as of the object worth knowing, that is God, has been briefly discussed. Knowing this in reality, my devotee enters into my being. Prakriti and Purush know both these as beginningless, and know all modifications such as likes and dislikes, etc., and all objects constituted of the three gunas as born of Prakriti. Prakriti is said to be responsible for bringing forth the evolutes and the instruments, while the individual soul is declared to be responsible for the experience of joys and sorrows. Only the Purusha, in association with Prakriti, experiences objects of the nature of the three gunas evolved from Prakriti, and it is attachment with these gunas that is responsible for the birth of this soul in good and evil wombs. The spirit dwelling in this body is really the same as the Supreme. He has been spoken of as the witness, the true guide, the sustainer of all, the experiencer as the embodied soul, the overlord, and the absolute as well. He who thus knows the Purush and Prakriti together with the gunas, even though performing his duties in every way, is not born again. Some by meditation behold the Supreme Spirit in the heart with the help of their refined and sharp intellect. Others realize it through the discipline of knowledge, and still others through the discipline of action, that is Karma Yoga. Other dull-witted persons, however, not knowing thus, worship even as they have heard from others, and even those who are thus devoted to what they have heard are able to cross the ocean of mundane existence in the shape of death. Arjun, whatsoever being, the moving or unmoving, is born, know it as emanated through the union of Kshetra and the Kshetrajna, matter and the spirit. He alone truly sees, who sees the Supreme Lord as imperishable and abiding equally in all perishable beings, both animate and inanimate. For by seeing the Supreme Lord equally present in all, he does not kill the self by himself and thereby attains the supreme state. He who sees that all actions are performed in every way by nature and the self as the non-doer, he alone verily sees. The moment man perceives the diversified existence of beings as rooted in the one Supreme Spirit and the spreading forth of all beings from the same, that very moment he attains Brahma, who is truth, consciousness, and bliss solidified. Arjun, being without beginning and without attributes, this indestructible Supreme Spirit, though dwelling in the body, in fact, does nothing nor gets tainted. As the all-pervading ether is not contaminated by reason of its subtlety, though permeating the body, the self is not affected by the attributes of the body due to its attributeless character. Arjun, as the one sun illumines this entire universe, so the one Atma or spirit illumines the whole Kshetra. Those who thus perceive with the eye of wisdom and difference between the Kshetra and Kshetrajna and the phenomenon of liberation from Prakriti and her evolutes reach the supreme eternal spirit. Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of Yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjun ends the 13th chapter entitled The Yoga of Discrimination between the field and the knower of the field.
अथ चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः गुणत्रयविभागयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच परं भूयः प्रवक्ष्यामि ज्ञानानां ज्ञानमुत्तमम् यज्ञात्वा मुनयः सर्वे परां सिद्धिमितो गताः इदं ज्ञानमुपाश्रित्य मम साद्धर्म्यमागताः सर्गेऽपि नोपजायन्ते प्रलयेन व्यथन्ति च मम योनिर्महद्ब्रह्म तस्मिन् गर्भं दधाम्यहम् सम्भवः सर्वभूतानां ततो भवति भारत सर्वयोनिषु कौन्तेय मूर्तयः सम्भवन्ति याः तासां ब्रह्म महद्योनिः अहं बीजप्रदः पिता सत्त्वं रजस्तम इति गुणाः प्रकृतिसम्भवाः निबन्धन्ति महाबाहो देहे देहिनमव्ययम् तत्र सत्त्वं निर्मलत्वात् प्रकाशकमनामयम् सुखसङ्गेन बध्नाति ज्ञानसङ्गेन चानघ रजो रागात्मकं विद्धि तृष्णासङ्गसमुद्भवम् तन्निबन्धाति कौन्तेय कर्मसङ्गेन देहिनम् तमस्त्वज्ञानजं विद्धि मोहनं सर्वदेहिनां प्रमादालस्य निद्राभिः तन्निबन्धाति भारत सत्त्वं सुखे संजयते रजः कर्मणि भारत ज्ञानमावृत्य तु तमः प्रमादे संजयत्युत रजस्तमश्चाभिभूय सत्त्वं भवति भारत रजः सत्त्वं तमश्चैव तमः सत्त्वं रजस्तथा सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत लोभः प्रवृत्तिरारम्भः कर्मणामशमः स्पृहा रजस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे भरतर्षभ अप्रकाशो प्रवृत्तिश्च प्रमादो मोह एव च तमस्येतानि जायन्ते विवृद्धे कुरु नन्दन यदा सत्त्वे प्रवृद्धे तु प्रलयं याति देहभृत् तदोत्तमविदां लोकान् अमलान् प्रतिपद्यते रजसि प्रलयं गत्वा कर्मसङ्गिषु जायते तथा प्रलीनस्तमसि मूढयोनिषु जायते कर्मणः सुकृतस्याहुः सात्विकं निर्मलं फलम् रजसस्तु फलं दुःखम् अज्ञानं तमसः फलम् सत्त्वात् संजायते ज्ञानं रजसो लोभ एव च प्रमादमोहौ तमसो भवतो ज्ञानमेव च ऊर्ध्वं गच्छन्ति सत्त्वस्थाः मध्ये तिष्ठन्ति राजसाः जघन्यगुणवृत्तिस्थाः अधो गच्छन्ति तामसाः नान्यं गुणेभ्यः कर्तारं यदा द्रष्टानुपश्यति गुणेभ्यश्च परं वेत्ति मद्भावं सोऽधिगच्छति गुणानेतानतीत्यत्रीन् देही देहसमुद्भवान् जन्म मृत्युजरा दुःखैः विमुक्तो मृतमश्नुते अर्जुन उवाच कैर्लिङ्गैस्त्रीन् गुणानेतान् अतीतो भवति प्रभो किमाचारः कथं चैतान् त्रीन् गुणान् अतिवर्तते श्रीभगवानुवाच प्रकाशं च प्रवृत्तिं च मोहमेव च पाण्डव न द्वेष्टि सम्प्रवृत्तानि न निवृत्तानि काङ्क्षति उदासीनवदासीनो गुणैर्यो न विचाल्यते गुणावर्तन्त इत्येव योऽवतिष्ठति नेङ्गते समदुःखसुखस्वस्थः समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः तुल्यप्रिया प्रियो धीरः तुल्यनिन्दात्मसंस्तुतिः मानापमानयोस्तुल्यः तुल्यो मित्रारिपक्षयोः सर्वारम्भपरित्यागी गुणातीतः स उच्यते मां च यो व्यभिचारेण भक्तियोगेन सेवते स गुणान् समतीत्यैतान् ब्रह्मभूयाय कल्पते ब्रह्मणो हि प्रतिष्ठाहम् अमृतस्य व्ययस्य च शाश्वतस्य च धर्मस्य सुखस्यैकान्तिकस्य च ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासूपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे गुणत्रयविभागयोगो नाम चतुर्दशोऽध्यायः।
Chapter 14, Translation. Sri Bhagavan said, I shall expound once more the supreme knowledge, the best of all knowledge, acquiring which all sages have attained highest perfection, being liberated from this mundane existence. Those who, by practicing this knowledge, have entered into my being are not born again at the cosmic dawn, nor feel disturbed even during the cosmic dissolution, pralaya. My primordial nature, known as the great Brahma, is the womb of all creatures. In that womb, I place the seed of all life. The creation of all beings follows from that union of matter and spirit, O Arjun. Of all embodied beings that appear in all the species of various kinds, Arjun, Prakriti or nature is the conceiving mother, while I am the seed-giving father. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, these three gunas born of nature, tie down the imperishable soul to the body, Arjun. Of these, Sattva, being immaculate, is illuminating and flawless. Arjun, it binds through attachment to happiness and knowledge. Arjun, know the quality of Rajas, which is of the nature of passion, as born of desire and attachment. It binds a soul through attachment to actions and their fruits. And know Tamas, the deluder of all those who look upon the body as their own self, as born of ignorance. It binds the soul through error, sloth, and sleep, Arjun. Sattva draws one to joy, and Rajas to action, while Tamas, clouding wisdom, impels one to error, sleep, and sloth, Arjun. Overpowering Rajas and Tamas, Arjun, Sattva prevails. Overpowering Sattva and Tamas, Rajas prevails. Even so, overpowering Sattva and Rajas, Tamas prevails. When light and discernment dawn in this body as well as in the mind and senses, then one should know that Sattva is predominant. With the preponderance of Rajas, Arjun, greed, activity, undertaking of action with an interested motive, restlessness, and a thirst for enjoyment make their appearance. With the growth of Tamas, Arjun, obtuseness of the mind and senses, disinclination to perform one's obligatory duties, frivolity and stupor, all these appear. When a man dies during the preponderance of Sattva, he obtains the stainless ethereal worlds, heaven, etc., attained by men of noble deeds. Dying when Rajas predominates, he is born among those attached to action. Even so, the man who has expired during the preponderance of Tamas is reborn in the species of the deluded creatures, such as insects and beasts, etc. The reward of a righteous act, they say, is sattvic, that is, faultless in the shape of joy, wisdom, and dispassion, etc. Sorrow is declared to be the fruit of a Rajasic act and ignorance the fruit of a Tamasic act. Wisdom follows from Sattva and greed undoubtedly from Rajas. Likewise, obstinate error, stupor, and also ignorance follow from Tamas. Those who abide in the quality of Sattva wend their way upwards, while those of a Rajasic disposition stay in the middle. and those of a tamasic temperament, enveloped as they are in the effects of tamogun, sink down. When the discerning person sees no one as doer other than the three gunas and realizes me, the Supreme Spirit, standing entirely beyond these gunas, he enters into my being. Having transcended the aforesaid three gunas, which have caused the body and freed from birth, death, old age, and all kinds of sorrow, the embodied soul attains supreme bliss. Arjun said, "What are the marks of him who has risen above the three gunas, and what is his conduct? And how, Lord, does he rise above the three gunas?" Sri Bhagavan said, "Arjun, he who hates not light, which is born of sattva, and activity, which is born of rajas, and even stupor, which is born of tamas, when prevalent, nor longs for them when they have ceased. He who, sitting like a witness, is not disturbed by the gunas, and who, knowing that the gunas alone move among the gunas, remains established in identity with God and never falls off from that state. He who is ever established in the self, takes pain and pleasure alike, regards a clod of earth, a stone, and a piece of gold as equal in value, is possessed of wisdom, accepts the pleasant as well as the unpleasant in the same spirit, and views censure and praise alike. He who is equipoised in honor or ignominy is alike towards a friend or an enemy, and has renounced the sense of doership in all undertakings, is said to have risen above the three gunas. He too constantly worships me through the yoga of exclusive devotion. Transcending these three gunas, he becomes eligible for attaining Brahma. For I am the substratum of the imperishable Brahma, of immortality, of the eternal Dharma, and of unending, immutable bliss." Thus, in the Upanishad sung by the Lord, the science of Brahma, the scripture of yoga, the dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjun ends the 14th chapter titled The Yoga of Division of Three Gunas.
Beautiful, no? So thank you everybody on YouTube and Facebook for joining us. And for those on Zoom, there is a special story for you that will follow. Just a second. Let me end the